Recording in progress.
So, this episode 11 of Love Story Love 12. In this episode, I am from the part where I'm in Toronto. I had been in Toronto for a month, and this was back in February 2016. And, if you've been following the story, you know what I've gotten up to for the month and what even led to me being in Toronto for the month when I was in Vancouver prior. And even what happened before that, if you start with the episode called A Full Circle. So it's really just this idea that the story just continues. The story is one that continually writes itself. It's simply letting the story unfold, and the story is always unfolding. And in the previous episode, I shared more about where currently I'm in Bali, and there's a day of silence tomorrow. So it's like more than a decade, almost a decade after. It's 2025 now. And this story was back from 2016. It's like I'm still letting the story write itself. I'm still going through new transformations and evolution and growth on a personal level, spiritual level. But yeah, so I'm in Toronto for the month 2016. I'm on this phase of like, okay, I'm kind of just living, I'm kind of just working, I'm kind of just traveling. I'm also kind of just, I'm like not really doing any one thing while I'm in Toronto. It's just like this blend. And for some reason, my energy is feeling very high because, that's the thing. When you're not suppressing yourself in some way, when you're not trying to fix yourself and compartmentalize yourself, you're just in the flow of life. And that's where your energy, like you become very appreciative and very grateful. And you feel like this high level of like love and appreciation for everything. It just makes you want to like live more fully. And so this was the state that I was in. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I love so much. Like every day is like almost like an adventure. It's like I get to be in a new place. And I love that idea of like a tiny limited concept where it's like, I'm not just going to be here forever and ever. And that's the beauty of it because I was like, well, I only booked my accommodation there for the month. So it's like, why am there's like this feeling of aliveness to it, right? It's a feeling of like, okay, there's something that comes next. So there's always something that there's like a forward moving motion, right? You know that, but it's also this feeling of like you're being called to just simply be in the moment. Because when I would be called to just book a one-way ticket, where I really could not see that like beyond and be like, okay, what next? As if you need to know like that feeling of like, oh, I need to have it planned out. I need to have something certain in place, That was the energy that was always part of like schooling or employment, right? Because a lot of times in those situations, you want everything to be like, it's like planned out. And for me, that's actually where a lot of that feeling of the dullness of life comes in. It really dulls your senses as a human being because you're not using that part of the brain where you're simply being in the moment and you're simply just allowing life to express itself and you're not needing to be like so in a way dogmatic. Like I need to have this contained in a certain way. I need to have a syllabus in place and I need to know exactly the pathway. A lot of times that structure can be quite limiting in a way. And a lot of times it's actually the expression of that fear, that feeling of scarcity, that feeling of lack trust in not in only yourself, but the universe. So when I'm in the state in Toronto, and even though it's like I never had this like feeling of like, oh my God, I really want to be at visit Vancouver, Toronto. And I was like reluctant to leave Vancouver because I'm like, I like being at Vancouver. But at the same time, I was feeling a feeling of that boredom, a feeling of that feeling of like just going through the motions day in, day out, and like a city that I once enjoyed. Why am I suddenly feeling like I'm just dragging my feet, right? So it's interesting that what I learned in that month in Toronto that was really juxtaposed with, say, living in a different city in Canada was that idea that like it's not even about like place or where you are. It's about that energy of aliveness that you feel while you're there. It's you could be anywhere, but if you don't have that feeling of aliveness and vibrancy, it totally changes your experience of a situation. And what was different about that month in Toronto was because even though I didn't have any reason to be there, even though I didn't plan it in my conscious mind, even though I didn't even have this idea that like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this and that, because I simply let the story unfold. I simply trusted and I went with what I felt called to on an intrinsic soul level. Like I had, logical reason, like I'm going here for this and this and this for A, then B. It was not an A, then B. It was not a linear type of thing. It was just like, okay, I feel called. I'm going with my intrinsic motivation. I'm booking a one-way ticket. I have no plan. I don't really know what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. I'm just taking like a day at a time and such. I'm just sitting in the moment. I'm just allowing things to be. I have this enormous sense of trust. I'm like, okay, I have it. I'm like intuiting. I'm like going into my intuition. I'm just feeling it out almost. I'm like, okay, what? It's like I'm tuning into my higher self to guide me. So I'm not like without purpose or like without a North Star. It's that I'm tuning into something larger than my human self. So I feel very like connected in that sense. Like I feel so deeply secure in that spirituality in a sense that I strengthened at this time. And now I'm, you know, what happens is that I obviously just I end up going around to different places. It's that feeling of exploration, it's that feeling of novelty, it's that feeling of awe. And every day is like you're inspired, you're feeling like vibrant, you feel like outside of the matrix because you're not tethered to any one thing. And every day is like this free flow. Like even though I took on like this structured employment that's like 9 to 3 p.m. for like 4 days of the week, that's during like a few weeks that I was there that month. And that was also very spontaneous how that kind of just fell into my lap during that time. It was this idea that like this is a time limited like situation. It's contained within a certain time. So it's like in a way, even though there's that restrictive energy of like, oh gosh, I'm in this type of same employment, it was a little bit different than what was before, where it was just like this never ending, like, oh, I'm just in this employment for life or something. I don't know what's going on here. But here it was like, you know what? It's alive. It's like I know I'm going to be gone at the end of the month. I know that there's something unfolding by the end of the month that I'm here. And I'm not going to I don't have to feel pressured to like figure it out right now. I don't feel pressured to make plans or book something because I'm like, oh no, I like my accommodation is up at the like in a week's time or something. At this point, there's like 1 week left in February, and my place that I'm staying in downtown Toronto, which is like a hostels international place, which was very unique vibe. Because I was like, wow, this was only like perfect. It just kind of fell into my lap as well. Living in somewhere very social in the heart of like by the waterfront area, and like, you know, amongst other like, people just like in transit and limbo and traveling, or just like, you know, a little bit outside of that box as well. It's like this just like everything just kind of meshing. And then lo and behold, I get this idea. And it was also very spontaneous, like when I got the idea to go to Toronto, go to Spain. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I literally never like other people to go. And I'm not even like necessarily on vacation or travel, right? I'm just living life. So I'm like, why would I feel like I have to go abroad? And that's obviously a little bit more, takes a little bit more, uh, you have to do a few more things before, instead of just like say going to a different province in the same country, it's a bit different because now you have to think, okay, it's a different language. I have to change the currency. I have to maybe get a new phone plan. And what's interesting about this is that I remember very clearly that my phone at the time, I was just using like a SIM card and had it with like I think I was like Telus at the time. I was like my provider for my phone services and whatnot. And I had this very clear idea. I'm like, I need to unlock my phone so that I'm able to, you know, have like local SIM cards, especially if I go to a different country. I don't want to be racking up all the international phone plan bills and whatever. And it's just easier this way. And so I'm like, I had to contact my provider to unlock my phone and allow me that capability to use other SIM cards in my phone, right? And it's interesting because I had this very clear notion. This word came to mind, untethering. It's like untethering. I'm untethering myself. I'm untethering myself being tied to one location. And that is what it felt like when I was making the leap from Toronto to Spain and had this pull. I'm like, and this idea, like, you're going to book a one-way ticket to Spain now from Toronto. And it's going to be a one-way ticket, so it's going to be open-ended. I have no clue when I'm returning to Canada. I have no clue why I'm even going to Spain in the first place. But it's this very strong intuitive pull. And then, and this very clear when I actually went and booked the ticket, and it was only like, it was actually, I realized I'm like, okay, from Toronto to Spain is actually pretty cheap because it's actually very close. In fact, like Toronto to Spain is like, and the most popular, I think the airport I flew into was Barcelona because that's like an international, a major airport. And so from Toronto to Barcelona was like almost like a very common route. I was like, so it's just like the path of least resistance. I just go with whatever feels easy, if that makes sense. Like something that I'm not thinking too much about it. There's no like when I said go to Spain, it was a particular like there was not a clear particular place at this particular point in time. It's like you just go with whatever instruction you get at the time. It's kind of like that, take one step at a time, and then you'll see the next step as you go along. So it's like at any time if you get told for something, and so it's like idea to go to Spain. And then I had to figure that out. I had like looking at the flights. I'm like, okay, I'll just fly to Barcelona. So this time it's like I don't really know what I'm going to do there. If I just book the ticket, it's like full faith, full trust. I'm like, whatever. I've already listened to that quote. Took me to from that from Vancouver to Toronto on a 4-day train ride, and I've been in Toronto for a month. I had no plan, and somehow the plan, like the story, just unfolded itself, right? And now, lo and behold, I'm being called to go to Spain. It's almost like this like just synergy where things are just going without you having to do anything in a way. It's like it's just a story unfolding and you're just simply intuiting and going along with it. That's definitely the vibe of what was going on for me at this time. So I go ahead and book this one-way ticket. I think it's like $400 Canadian dollars. Okay. So that's just I feel that. Uh, so I'm like, I have my plan for the end of the month of February. And I'm like, that's good that I left things open-ended because that allows me the freedom to go where I next feel called. So it's this very intuitive way of moving, right? I'm not planning anything. I'm not trying to like figure anything out. Just simply listening to the pull inside and then taking action, whatever feels like the path of least resistance. And so now I'm like, okay, well, I've got to change the food. I've got to get my phone plan in order. So now I'm doing a little bit more. Like I've already got just like my one suitcase, right? So it's like in terms of packing, like I'm technically already got all my stuff with me. Now I just have to do a little bit, add on a little bit extra things that I hadn't had to do from just moving from a different province. So what I'm doing now is I'm untethering. And it was interesting, like this was literally the word that was in my head. Untethering, untethering, untethering. It was really this energetic feeling of like I'm no longer seeing myself as like I just live in Canada or I'm just like this is my home base or something. It's this feeling of like being more free, like location independent. And the symbolic notion of having my SIM card, having my phone be unlocked so that it can house an international variety of like SIM cards. It was this energetic shift in that moment. I'm like, wow. I remember I was on the phone with like my TELUS, which was my phone provider at the time. And I was just like requesting that my phone be unlocked. And I was like, I felt this, I wasn't yet in Spain, but I suddenly like I felt myself shift into like this worldwide citizen. And uh I hadn't even well, I've been abroad, but haven't even actually taken I was still in Toronto at the time. So it was interesting that's like your energy precedes your your actions sometimes. And so not only was I untethering, like in the physical notion of getting my phone unlocked, I was untethering my identity from this feeling of like I only exist in one place. And it was interesting because I think this is the way I had felt way down when I just simply living life in one place, like in Toronto, or even just my hometown, or just this and this and that, or just being tied to like an education program or an employment situation. It was this feeling of like, oh, you're just tied to one place, you're in a way tethered, right? There's only so much leeway and room. It's like being on a leash. And at this point, I had been in Toronto for a month. So I had a little bit of that on the edge of like going to this new space of freedom. But then it wasn't until I was now untethering myself on an even deeper level and with more energy. I was, um, so I was in Toronto and I was feeling this feeling of untethering myself more and more. I'm like, I'm going international now. I don't have to be so tied to my sense of identity or this feeling of like, and it's interesting because I'm just booking one-way trips, so it's not even like a return ticket. And that was a major part of it. It's just this feeling of like I'm not necessarily like I don't have a timeline that I'm like I have to be back by this time. I don't even have this feeling of like I have to come back for certain employment or certain thing like that. Like it's gonna tie me to something. If you know what I'm trying to say, it's like this idea that I'm I'm freeing myself from these energetic ties of how sometimes you think things need to be. So much times you're like you need to, yeah, that's the thing. I think this whole tug of war, like this push and pull between education and employment that I think I had been almost like struggling with throughout like when I was like 17 to like my mid 20s during that era, that stage of my life where I was really kind of like in and out of these two paths, but just never really feeling like I quite fit into any of them. And then now suddenly like this convergence of energy where it's like this transformation that was just like came about through allowing myself to move with what I was being called to on an intuitive, intrinsic soul level, not thinking about it, trying to figure things out, just letting things be, right? And that's really what happened at this point where I'm now, I'm now essentially just living that solution that maybe I wasn't able to quite figure out from my logical human mind, which was like, oh, why do I feel so like in a way suppressed or like just not like dulled in a way? Like my mind is not grasping this idea of education or employment. It's just like I'm not, my energy is not meshing with it somehow. My energy feels too big for this. It feels like it can't be contained by these very narrow ways of, defining life or being. It's like this, for me, it was a false sense of delusion or security. Like, oh, you have employment, you have a job, you have some kind of educational program that you're in, you have a certificate to show something. These are very like, I feel superficial and non-actual truth ways of like defining your security and rootedness in life. It was ironic that in this untethering from these notions that came from the symbolic physical action of unlocking my phone, I also had this like feeling of like, wow, I am never going back to education and employment in the same way that I had felt like I had to in the past. It was this feeling of like, I don't have to. I don't, this is not necessarily the truth. Because it was like in grounding myself spiritually and in my soul and my essence, I could feel who I was on a very deep level. And this is almost that, it didn't take any bravery or courage in that sense of like going around the world on my own as a female in my 20s. I didn't feel that. For me, it was more just this leap of faith. Can I trust myself? Can I expand to more of who I really am? Can I grow? Can I transform? Am I able to allow myself to be the way happier, more vibrant, more alive? It was this feeling of expansion, really, and this feeling of deeper purpose and connection to my energetic spiritual roots. And for me, this is the core truth. It's connection and the energetic feeling of safety within yourself, no matter where you are, regardless of like external circumstances, regardless of like the stuff, like the physical, the arbitrary, like the expression of the things that show up, like say your particular situation, right? Where you're living, what you're doing, who you're with, whatever. These like more surface layers of things. The true security and sense of self comes from that deep connection with your spiritual self. And that's where the untethering actually can come about. Because not until you feel super like that safety within yourself on a true energetical level, that goes far beyond like the material or the physical level of things. Only then are you able to feel that true sense of untethering. And in this feeling, it's like I can go anywhere in the world. I can be anywhere in the world by myself, on my own. And yet I feel so rooted and so strong in myself and my sense of self and that certainty and that security and that trust and that faith and that joy. It's like this is where it's at. This is the inner home that you want to cultivate within yourself. It's that untethering from the notions of external validation and societal like expectations, if you will, and like these certain structures that are meant to give you this false sense of security and illusion, but actually I think are actually at the cause and root of a lot of people's a lot of like, anxiousness and unhappiness and actually disconnection from self. And actually go through to the truth of what the matter is that your own connection with your spiritual self that allows you to disconnect and untether from these more shallow notions. That's where you strengthen your sense of self. And that's where you strengthen your own self-esteem and your own almost like your self-led ability to go travel the world on your own and somehow feel that sense of connection within yourself, no matter where you are. It's like that inner home that you carry within yourself. And I felt that very strong sense of like, wherever I am in the world, whatever is going on around me, I always have that home in myself. And it's like I have that very strong connection to my spiritual self at this point. So this is really like that core. This is the part I want to elaborate on more and more because it's like the golden nugget. This is like the gem within the whole story. It's that home that I carry within myself. And it comes from untethering from what isn't and connecting what is. And it's not about where you are. It's not about what you're doing. It's not even about what's going on around you. It has everything to do with your connection with yourself. And so this is where you allow the story to write itself, because the story written by your higher self is more than you can ever know from your human mind. And so the leap from Toronto to Spain was really this untethering from this old identity. And that's where the transformation really, this is the transformation that I was brought to, that I was led to, and that I was now on the brink of become like evolving into this new level version of myself, or even just like transformation into greater truth and I purpose and sense of who I really am. And it's never been about, it's not even about the travel. It's not even about the particular specific place. It's not even about what I'm doing in the more superficial, like, oh, I saw this and I saw that and whatever. It's why I'm not talking about like itineraries. I'm not talking about like, oh, you should go do this and see this. Yes, I can say all of that, but really to me, it's about the energy behind it. It's the energetic connection with yourself and that spiritual unfolding. So there's so much more for me to go on and on and say about this topic, but for today's episode, I just wanted to highlight this particular aspect of untethering. In fact, I think that's the title for this episode, Untethering, because this is the core of the leap from Toronto to Spain. What it was that inner expression and that parallel to my own individual transformation in going from Toronto to Spain was about untethering.